Boy, that new season of Stranger Things is weird. I was going to save that opening joke for when I review the new Stephen King It film, but the time just seemed right on this one. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, and this is our post-Geekout reaction to Legion. Now, for anybody who has not seen a post-Geekout reaction before, this is not a review, it's just my open, honest thoughts about the thing that I just watched right after I watched it. Although, in this instant, it's about a week after I watched it because I had so many other things I needed to record in that time. But still, this is just a discussion about what I watched, and that does include full spoilers. Now, if you don't want to hear any spoilers for this show, I do have a mini review for this coming up in just a little bit, so you can tune into that. It's only about 5 minutes long. It is a mini review. And one of the reasons why it is such a short review is because, oh my god, are there so many things to spoil in this show. However, I did one of these for Iron Fist, I did one of these for Luke Cage, but I divided those up into a set number of episodes. On this one, I'm going to be talking about the entire series, and because I'm going to be talking about the entire series, I'm not going to be really going by episode by episode or talking about oh, remember when this got revealed, remember when this got revealed. I'm just going to kind of be talking about the entire show in general, so I'm not really going to be talking about plot points, more of just how I felt about the show after it was all said and done. And I'm also kind of doing that not just because I'm reviewing it after it's all ended, but also because it's stunning to me that this show had 8 episodes, and I swear more happened in these 8 episodes than happened in all 12 or 13 of the Iron Fist series. And again, I'm gonna try and refrain from just bashing Iron Fist again, but man, I can't really help it. Marvel had come in here and just dominated with these Netflix shows and gone, this is how you do real, adult, super-powered character television series. And then Legion just said, hold up, I'm gonna step in here real quickly. And they came in, if they had come in when Luke Cage was out, or when Jessica Jones was out, it would be oh, it's a battle royale. Oh man, can you imagine having these many great shows? They came out when Marvel finally had their first real big screw up. And then they came in and just schooled them on. It's oh my god. It makes you think back to when Fox was just falling flat on their face with the X-Men franchise just a couple of years ago. And man, they have gotten their act together. I still don't know if I would applaud them so much on having a very well-established shared universe, because I realized when I was watching Logan, Fox doesn't care about the shared universe anymore. Fox is we don't even know ourselves how any of this stuff connects, but it doesn't matter. We're just gonna try and tell damn good stories. And here's the thing, if you can keep telling damn good stories, I don't care. I really don't care if you have a shared universe. I am willing to step back and go, you know what, it doesn't have to all connect, because I have no idea if Legion exists in the same universe as their movies, as their movie films, as their movie universe. I don't know if these are the DC universe with their television series, or if Legion is just in a universe of its own, or if it does exist, because that's the crazy thing. This could exist in there. Partly because I have no idea when this show takes place. Was it just me, or did you watch this entire show and keep thinking to yourself, this is set in the 70s, right? The way that people dress, the color tone of everything, just the style of it all. It's gotta be in the 70s, maybe the 80s. I doubt the 60s, definitely not the 60s, but sometime around then, 70s or 80s, it's gotta be around then. And then in the next to last episode, in which they said, I guess I can send them an email, I went, wait, what? Hold on, where'd that come from? Maybe I totally missed it. Maybe this entire series just started off with a title card that said 2017, and I just turned my head away from it to go and grab a snack when that was up. I don't know, but I seriously did not think that this was set in the present. And that's another amazing thing about kind of how I don't know how this fits into the X-Men universe, but I don't care because it's such a good show. I don't know what time period this is in, but I don't really care because they kind of did an amazing thing in making it that it can kind of fit in almost any time period. I mean, it feels so much like the 70s, it feels so much like the 80s, but then they also have references like email that would take place later on. So it's okay, so is it the 90s? Is it when email was just coming around? But again, doesn't matter. Does not matter at all. Maybe this is set in the 70s and they, with their super mutant technology, have just invented emails. I mean, back in the 70s in this universe, they had giant robots already, so who knows. Yeah, so, okay, I am really just going all over the place on this one. I just spent like 5 minutes just complimenting the fact that they said emails at one point. But yeah, that's what the post Geekout reaction is. It's just my open, honest thoughts. And I don't go in any order on this. So another thing that I want to bring up right now, simply because I totally forgot to do it in the mini review that's coming up in a little bit. Holy cow, the score in this is so incredible. The score and the soundtrack. I need the Legion soundtrack. I need that to be a thing that I can go and buy. Because, God, every song in here was amazing. And some of them were some of my old favorites. Like I said, this is kind of set around like the 70s and 80s. That's the tone that they're going for. And that was my favorite time period for music. But then they kept bringing out all these little tiny hidden gems that I had never heard of. I was like, I need to get that on my iPod right now. I want to listen to this at all times. Whoever picked out the score for this, you were on point with everything. You were perfect. I know that's not a huge thing to compliment, but after I finished recording the mini review, I then went and started grabbing little clips to use in the review. And man, it just came back to me like I forgot how good this was. So I had to make sure that I got that out of the way right now. Okay, let's go ahead and get into like just talking about the core of this show. This show, it is about the character of Legion from the comics, which I don't know if this will come up in any of the future seasons. So potential spoilers for anybody who doesn't know the comics, even if you are caught up on the show, but they actually did a brilliant job of hinting at this in a way that's like, I think I know who his dad is. His dad is Charles Xavier. In the comics, his dad is Professor X. And in the comics, Legion is a total schizophrenic. He has got like, I think it was like 25 personalities. I think that's what he started with, but then they kept amping it up. I think he's almost got like 100 now in the comics. And when this show started and it had him in the mental institution, I kept looking at everybody in that institution and just thinking, they're not real, they're not real, they're not real. He's in an empty room right now talking to nobody. Like, I really thought that every single person in this show was going to be revealed to be an alternate personality of his. So I do kind of find it, I don't really know how I feel about it. I don't really think it's a negative, but I don't really think it's a positive. I'm just trying to figure out what I think about this, that the big reveal of this is that he's not schizophrenic at all. It's that all the other voices in his head were just his psychic powers, but also it was the Shadow King. It's so weird that I still feel weird spoiling things, even though I made it very clear multiple times. I'm going full spoilers whenever I want on this. But yeah, so I kind of find it odd that it's like, okay, so he's not schizophrenic in this show. It was all just it was all just his powers. It was people misdiagnosing him. So, I don't know. I think it would have been a cool thing if they had kept the schizophrenia as part of his character. But then again, they could bring that back in future episodes. Who knows what they're going to do? Especially with how this series ended, because I don't even know what the heck happened there at the end. Someone on Twitter told me that it was S.H.I.E.L.D. coming in. Not S.H.I.E.L.D., but S.W.O.R.D., which is the space version of S.H.I.E.L.D. They were coming in here and beaming him up because that apparently happened in his comic. I've read a lot of X-Men comics, but Legion was always a character I didn't give a crap about. So I don't know anything about his backstory other than that he is the son of Charles Xavier, he's schizophrenic, and apparently he caused the Age of Apocalypse to happen when he time traveled back in time and accidentally killed his own dad. Yeah, comics are weird, especially X-Men comics. So, how weird would that have been if they had tied this into that Apocalypse film that came out last year? Thank God they did. Man, sorry, this is a show that is just a lot to really process through. So yeah, again, just jumping through everything. I really was expecting them to just reveal that everybody there was just an alternate personality of his. But then you keep seeing that big, giant prosthetic guy walking around in the background. And when I first saw him, I was like, all right, mental projection, he looks like that. He looks kind of like the Shadow King in the comics. It'd be cool if that was the Shadow King, but nah, that's not the Shadow King. I know it's not, because the X-Men films, they're starting to run low on villains. There are very few X-Men villains who are really worthy of being like a villain in a movie. Shadow King is one of the last few villains that the X-Men have who I can really picture being a villain in an X-Men film without them having to start repeating villains. Yeah, it was the Shadow King. I gotta hand it to him. Holy cow. Like I said, I called it in the very first episode, and then I immediately went, no way would this show do something that cool. They have to be saving him for a later episode, for a later film. I bet that is just an evil alternate personality of Legion. Nope. Totally the Shadow King. And this is the best interpretation of the Shadow King you are ever going to get. That guy is a great villain in the comics. They've done some amazing stuff with him in the comics. But wow, just the way that they are constantly flipping everything up, the way they have been torturing this kid his whole life, the way that they make like that image of the angry boy pop up, the angry boy alone will haunt your nightmares in this show. That was a brilliant effect and brilliant design and brilliant costume and everything else that went into that. Man, that looks exactly like something that a little child would fear and be afraid of throughout the rest of their life. And the way that child's mind would interpret that into being a real thing. So the way that the Shadow King is able to use that to haunt him throughout his life, that was so incredibly good. And of course, the big twist with the Shadow King, when they're talking to his sister, and she just goes, "We never had a dog." This whole time, every time that they do a flashback, they have been focusing on that dog. And I kept going, this dog is going to be important for some reason. I didn't think it was going to be that. I really did not think it was going to be revealed that it's like, yeah, the Shadow King was that dog. It was there with him his whole life. Man, that was such a good twist on that. And I love how he was able to come to the conclusion of what the Shadow King was, of when he got trapped in his own mind in which he thought he was in a coffin, and then all of a sudden the British version of him pops up and starts talking to him, which, by the way, is that actor actually British? Because after he popped up doing the British accent, I thought, that is a damn good British accent, but then it made me listen to his American accent and go, you know, when British people do American accents, even when they do it well, there's a couple of little ticks that you can pick up on. I didn't pick up on it until now, but I'm now noticing him doing those in his American accent. So I don't know. I didn't research it. It just kind of hit me right here in this moment. I was like, oh, maybe he actually is British. Anyway, but when this British version of him pops up and he goes, listen, we're going to break this down logically. You can figure this out. Take the information that you have and figure this out. And he started putting it all up there on the chalkboard, and he draws out his dad. And I love that his dad, since he doesn't know what he looks like, he just drew a bald guy in a suit, which is what Professor X is. That was genius to me. It makes total sense that that's how he would picture his dad, since he doesn't know his dad. But also, it's like a real big like wink and nod to the audience of like, yeah, you guys have figured this out by now, right? But then he's able to just take the information that he has and he is able to break it down into being like, here's the origin story of the Shadow King. And it's like, I could follow that. I was able to follow that and be like, yeah, based on the information that he has, if he just sat down and broke this down enough, that is exactly what you would come up with. And the effects on that like little blackboard, on the blackboard where he's just drawing out the history of the Shadow King, that was amazing to watch. That was some damn good effects. And I really have to applaud this show because either this show had like double the budget of Iron Fist and they were not afraid to use it and they were not afraid to throw it up there on the screen, or it had like half the budget of Iron Fist because most of this show just takes place in very few locations and there are very few actors in this show. But they were able to save that budget for when they needed it, and they were able to do really creative stuff with a very small budget. It's one of those two, and I have to applaud them for either one that it is. Again, real sorry that I had to stop right there and dig at Iron Fist one more time, but hey man, it ties into this. I can't help it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the Shadow King, which also, again, Aubrey Plaza. Oh my goodness. By the way, I'm going to stop real quick, and I realize that I have been screaming right now throughout a lot of this, but I have to stop and apologize to everyone. I recently got a brand new camera, which is why I look a lot crisper and cleaner, and the colors are so much nicer in here. Doesn't it look nice? However, the audio is kind of weird, and every now and again, the audio, when I start screaming, my voice just kind of sounds like I'm ordering at a drive-thru, just like... So sorry if that is happening right now. I'm trying to restrain myself, but I can't because this show's so damn good. And Aubrey Plaza is so damn good in this show. when she first popped up, I was like, all right, she's just doing kind of like, you know, just a kooky, crazy chick. All right, she's just there to be his magical, like, quirky girl coming in there. What do they call that? The magic pixie girl? She's like the mental institution version of that. It's like, all right, fine, whatever. She's there because he needs a goofy friend to talk to. The moment in which she just goes, oh my God, I'm trying to remember the exact line, but the moment in which she's like, what are you? And she just goes, I'm you, you're me, I'm everything you want to be. I was like, oh my God. Like, I knew she was a split personality because she was dead and still popping up there. But when I realized in that moment, she's not a split personality from the big demon guy walking around. She is the big demon guy walking around. They're the same guy. And I think that's the moment in which I started going, are they doing the Shadow King in here? Is that actually a thing that's happening? Like, oh my goodness. Okay. But from that point on, she just nailed this role. She dominated that performance. Like, that whole dance number when she has them all trapped in, like, the fake mental hospital and she's the psychiatrist in there. The range that she showed in that was amazing. But then that, like, dance number that she does in there, and it's like, man, it's just her going to town on his mind. That was great. She gave it 110% on that. And then when everything, like, turned into a silent movie there in the last couple of episodes, and she comes in with the light and is like, time to die. I was like, she is legit terrifying. The way that she just took the eye and just crumpled that guy up, which, I gotta say, the eye, you know, there's very few things I will complain about in this show. I think the eye was a cool concept, and they did some cool stuff with him, like made him just silent the whole time, kind of intimidating, but yeah, I don't know. You've got the Shadow King just no pun intended, just overshadowing him at all moments of this. You know, he kind of faded away from me. His role in this film is literally what the Shadow King did to him there at the end, which was like, yeah, I'm here now, you ain't a threat, crumple you up like a ball and throw you away. It's like, yeah, anytime that he came up later on in the series, I was like, why am I even worried about you anymore at this point? So yeah, Shadow King, applause all the round. Also, I want to make sure that I get this actor's name right, because if you guys know me, you know I am awful with actors' names. Jermaine Clement from Flying of the Conchords. When he popped up there at the opening of that one episode as a narrator, I thought to myself, okay, this is like this show is quirky. This show is not afraid to get creative. So if they want to have like the celebrity guest star come in here and just be a narrator for an episode, all right, I can totally see them doing that. Then when it turns out he's like able to psychically communicate with them, then it turns out that he's the guy who helped build this whole thing, and he actually starts playing a major role in the story. Kudos to this show. I was not expecting him to stick around, and then they reveal I was here the whole time, all right? And he was one of the best things about this show. There at the end, when they were trying to unfreeze time and get them out of their mind, in the mini review that I have coming up, I said that one of my few problems with this is that there at the end, when they're trying to figure out how to break free of that, I was like, I don't know how any of this is working. I don't know if this makes sense. Were these just mutant powers that you had the whole time that allow you to do this? I don't quite get what's happening here. However, this isn't an instance of me coming in here and going like, oh, well, they just made something up there at the end. It's not, because this show is so incredibly smart that I didn't look at it as, oh, they just made this up here at the end to solve everything. I looked at it like, this probably makes sense, and I'm probably just too stupid to think of it. I'm probably just too stupid to realize what they're doing at this moment. There probably is an explanation, so I can't really take too many points off for it. But there at the end where he's just conducting the music. I don't know what that music was doing, but it was doing something, apparently. He sold that. As I said, there at the end, I didn't quite understand what was going on, but this show is so smart, and the actors were able to sell everything that was happening, that was just like, all right, cool, I will go along with this, Jermaine Clement. And the fact that he and Aubrey Plaza, the two best things about this show, are now going to be teaming up, because now they're the Shadow King at the end of this, for the next season. Man, I am excited. This show just blew me away. There's so many other things that I want to compliment, and I know that I'm really just kind of jumping around here. but I'll just say the actors who played David and Sid, Dan Stevens and Rachel Keller, they were great on screen together. I really did buy their chemistry. I really did buy them bonding. I really did buy that these are two people who do have emotional problems and they're just kind of coming together because of that. So that absolutely worked for me. And I love that when Daniel started learning about his psychic powers, he created the White Room, which is a thing from the X-Men that like Scott and Jean and Scott and Emma always used to share. In fact, they even kind of had that between Logan and Jean in the Wolverine film. So I'm loving that that is now like a thing that's bonding all these psychics together. That's like a thing between them and the people that they love. Man, there's so much that I want to talk about, but really, those are the high points. Those are the things that are just kind of coming to my mind right now. Guys, this is one of those shows where I'm just floored. I am just excited to think about where this show can go. But even if they just come back in and go, yeah, we decided not to make a season 2, I can still look at this and go, I still got an amazing season 1. That is all that I needed. I just needed that season 1. Because honestly, if it wasn't for that little weird alien ball coming down and absorbing him at the end of this, I would have been able to look at this and gone like, you know what? It doesn't matter what happens to the Shadow King at the end of this. You have set up these characters, you've had them come together. This was the protagonist's story. He now has reached a point in which he has really come to terms with who he is, and that was great to see there in that final episode. That's another thing that I gotta point out. I was a little bit miffed that after dealing with the Shadow King, they brought back in this guy from the first episode who I had totally forgotten about, and he just surrounds them all with all these guns, and I was just like, for real, man? We just got done with the Shadow King, and now this is going to be the thing that takes you out? This is going to be the threat? After everything that you went through, this doesn't seem like a threat at all. And I love that that was the cliffhanger. First couple minutes of the very next episode is Legion just going, yeah, no. Boop, and he just takes them all out instantly, and then that guy just looks at him and was like, oh shit. Like, they spent the entire first part of that episode building this guy up, building up his quest for revenge, building up why he has to get back at him, telling his officials, like, I'm not taking a desk job, I am going after this guy. It doesn't matter what you say, I am coming down on him. It is my revenge. Him and me, mano a mano. This is happening. Second he meets him, boop, it is just over with. He's just like, oh, this was all for nothing. I am out of my league. That was a great build up. Oh my God. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm so sorry that I am just like geeking out over this, but this show was so good. But as I was saying, even if this show doesn't do anything special the next season, even if there is nothing in the next season that makes me go, oh, that was amazing, this whole season I can still look at as its own thing, because at the end of it, you really can tell that these characters have grown, they've come together, they have gone on a journey. So yeah, even if like you never find out the answers, I thought this was great. And the fact that it was only 8 episodes, I've always heard people come in here and say, like, man, the Marvel Netflix shows, they go on too long. They don't need to be 13 episodes long. I've always kind of been like, no, man, I think they actually work. I think they really do work at 13 episodes. I think that that absolutely is how many you need to tell a story. This told that story in 8 episodes, and now I'm like, oh, I get it. I understand what you guys are saying now. Yeah, maybe 13 is too long. Let's tap that back. It is just incredible to me that Legion just came in here and just schooled everyone on this. I'm not saying it's better than, say, Jessica Jones. I'm not even saying it's better than, one of the seasons of Daredevil. But it has come in here and gone, we can now compete on the same level as those Netflix shows. Because, listen, I know I'm going to get a lot of people angry at me, but I've had so many people asking me to continue talking about The Flash because I've been talking about Season 1, I talked about Season 2. I haven't really said anything about Season 3, and part of the reason I haven't said anything about Season 3 is I have gotten to that point with that show where it's like, I can't deal with villains of the week anymore. I can't deal with every single episode being like, oh, well, guess we now have to fight this guy. Oh, there's a giant threat that we've been facing for the past couple episodes. We're gonna take a break from that now because there's some pirate guy out there stealing some loot. Oh, time to learn the lesson of this episode. I've just gotten to a point where I can't deal with that anymore. I know that's the formula. I know that's the formula for weekly TV shows, But I kept looking at the Netflix shows like, yeah, they don't do that. They have a solid storyline that just goes across this. But you know what? I understand that that's how that works for them because it's on Netflix. You can stream it all, so it's just like watching one really big, long movie. But then Legion came in here. And Legion is a weekly show. It is a tune in every week for a brand new episode kind of show. And they said, yeah, no, even if you can't just stream all of our episodes right in a row, we can still do that. We can still have the one storyline that just progresses with mini arcs in every episode that just connect from one to the next with just one villain that just builds up all throughout this. Yeah, man, it proved to me that it can be done. It proves to me you don't have to go to Netflix in order to have that Netflix quality. You can have this be a weekly show that still captures what I love about being able to sit down and just stream a whole bunch of episodes back to back. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. Like I said, there's still a ton more to talk about in this show, but I would be here forever if this show comes back next season, which it will. This got like great ratings. So when it comes back, if it is another 8 episodes, I am going to do 2 post-Geekout reactions. I will do one after 4 episodes, and I will do one after the final episode, just simply because, man, my head, you know that little cinematic that they showed for Legion of just like his head exploding with all that energy? That's me right now trying to think about everything that I want to talk about with Legion. So, yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you thought about this. Thank you guys for tuning in very much. Like I said, I have the mini review coming up in a little bit. It's basically going to be exactly what I just said here. But if you still want to check that out and share it around the web, I would greatly appreciate it. So thank you guys very much. Come back next time. Bye.